Yeah, a huge night tonight, and we want to get more analysis now on what we're seeing this evening.
That's right. Political reporter Greg Lee is here. He's joined by KTVU political analyst Brian Sobel and San Jose State political science professor Melinda Jackson.
Guys, thanks, Melinda. I want to start with you. How big of a night was this for former Vice President Joe Biden?
It's a huge night for him. He really hit his stride at just the right moment in this campaign to get that momentum coming into Super Tuesday. Now the challenge is to see whether he can continue that as we go ahead to the next primaries coming up in the next few weeks.
Brian, we had thought Bernie Sanders would come out of Super Tuesday with an insurmountable lead. And granted, he won California and he's very close in Texas, so he could still do that. But where does he stand? Where does his campaign stand after tonight?
Well, they have to take an assessment of where they did well, where they did poorly. They did very poorly in the South. We'll see what happens in Texas as the votes continue to come in. California was expected to go in his direction. It did, but we'll have to look at the margin of victory. And at the end of the night, Greg, we have to do a delegate count and see how this all nets out.
Melinda, not the best night for Elizabeth Warren. She lost her home state of Massachusetts, and she struggled to hit that 15% viability mark in a lot of states. Where does she stand?
Yeah, it's got to be really disappointing for her. There's a very, it's hard to see any kind of path forward for her after this point. I think she has, a great future in Democratic politics, but probably not continuing in the presidential campaign this year.
Brian, Michael Bloomberg spent a lot of money, especially on Super Tuesday states, close to $250 million just on Super Tuesday states. He had a jump on those states, but really kind of fell flat tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And I think when you hear a candidate say they are going to reassess their candidacy, that tells me that he's going to be pulling out. It's a lot of money to spend to get no traction whatsoever. And I think for Michael Bloomberg, the end of the road is here.
Melinda, how much of a two-person race is this now? And really painting a picture of the Democratic establishment versus the progressives and this new wave.
That's exactly where we're at now. It is a two-person race going forward. We have a clear choice for Democratic voters between Bernie Sanders' progressive agenda and Joe Biden representing the establishment, the more moderate wing of the party. We always knew that if you added up all the votes that, Buttigieg and Klobuchar and Biden were getting, that it was more than Bernie got. Now that all those votes are going to Biden, that's what we're seeing is the consolidation around that moderate candidate.
Brian, much of the conversation throughout this has been about electability and who can compete with Donald Trump. What does tonight tell us about painting that picture and somebody that could compete with Donald Trump and the economy and the issues that he stands on?
Well, it does come down to two people at the end of the day, and you're going to hear a lot of talk from Bernie Sanders about a new direction for this country. Out of Joe Biden, you're going to hear a much more moderate stance, much more about his experience as vice president and that sort of thing, and how they can beat Trump on the economy. There are many factors in favor, in Donald Trump's favor, around economic issues. The role of Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden is to take that argument, cut it in half, and say, I can do a better job.
Melinda, bringing it back to California, did we see the Buttigieg, Klobuchar dropouts and endorsements move Joe Biden or any other candidate?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped Joe Biden. There were still some voters who got their ballots in early and, voted for one of those candidates who dropped out. But I think the folks who were waiting to see what happened definitely consolidated around Joe Biden. So he ended up doing much better in California than we would have expected, even though Bernie Sanders still came out ahead.
Brian, we still do not know Texas, but it is very, very close. We had anticipated that would be a state Bernie Sanders would run away with. What does that tell you, despite all of his efforts with that Latinx community, knowing still, though, that things could change?
That a lot of people in this country are moderate, that they see Joe Biden as a person that if he can put together a campaign along the lines of what he did in the last few days and speak to the people as he did tonight in that speech that he gave, fiery, on point. If he can be that Joe Biden, he can beat Donald Trump, is what they're thinking.
Melinda, we've talked a lot about big voter turnout. You teach at a college where there's a voting center. We saw major excitement there. Just looking at this in a nonpartisan way, how exciting is that to see how many people are involved in the democratic process?
Oh, it's invigorating. It's exciting. It's really good to see people, no matter what their political views, getting engaged, getting involved, going out, voting, volunteering, talking with their friends about the issues. And it's exciting to be in California this year because, hey, we actually matter this time. So I think we really saw a big boost from that, too.
All right, that's a good one to end it on. Brian, Melinda, thank you for your time. Frank, Julie, back to you at the desk.
Greg, thank you. California's Republican Party is also holding a primary today. President Trump easily winning the state and its delegates. Here's a look at the numbers. A huge win for Donald Trump, 93% there, with 3% and 2% to follow.
And you can follow all the election results on our website, ktvu.com, including county by county results for the presidential primaries.